Hello, good evening, and welcome to Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo to present. And our top stories in the news tonight: President Hakainde Hichilema accused of being superstitious for failing to occupy State House. A Chinese national is on the run after stealing over 1 million kwacha. Government's failure to reduce fuel prices annoys the opposition leadership movement. In international news, EU leaders vow to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. And in sports news, EVERTON dents Arsenal's title charge.
On Monday, 16th February 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, Ambassador Anton Mukwita.
Country which is 750,000 square kilometers, about 2 million of that land in hectareage is arable. We also have one of the biggest resources needed for agriculture. That is 60% of the water in the southern African region is in Zambia.
As they discuss Zambia's 2023 governance issues.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp and text messages.
On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98 and Topstar channel 106.
Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Our news in detail. Kamala Ward 5 Councillor Mainda Simata has disclosed that a new police station will be constructed in the area in order to avert high crime levels. Mr. Simata tells Camnet News that the process is currently at the procurement stage and that the site has been inspected. The existing Lakson Mapushi police post is not adequate in terms of size and human resources, hence it cannot contain the growing population. Meanwhile, the civic leader has engaged the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit to intervene on the issue of floods. Here's a report.
Lusaka's Kamala South in KWACHA constituency has not been spared from crime being perpetrated by young people who are commonly referred to as junkies. Residents of Kamala Ward 5 have been complaining of increasing crime levels. A safe community with a functioning police station benefits from crime prevention and reduction in violence cases. Lakson Mapushi police station in Kamala South is currently not able to provide adequate service due to limited personnel and the capacity of the station, and this has been a matter of concern for the residents.
At procurement stage, yesterday Friday we had the bidding contractors who are bidding for this project. They came on the ground and did some site inspection. So we are hoping that by the beginning of March, construction should start. And it's of much concern for me as a councillor because the security situation in this part of Kamala South is really bad. There have been a lot of complaints from members of the community. Remember about 6 months ago, there was a shooting just near Kamala South Market. So we are hoping that with the coming of the new police post, there will be increased manpower and perhaps improved facilities for the officers so that they can be working in conditions. You've seen the conditions we have.
Area Councillor Mainda Simata says a new police station will be constructed to adequately respond to crime prevention and mitigation.
So, as you may be aware, Kamala South is one of those areas in Lusaka that is very, very prone to flooding situations. At the moment, we've got 25 houses in record that have been flooded completely. Yesterday, I wrote a letter to the DMMU to seek intervention because Lusaka City Council in itself does not have the capacity or manpower or even equipment to tackle the issue of floods. So I wrote a request letter, an appeal letter rather, to the DMMU to ensure to say that whatever resources they can avail to us are availed so that at least we can relocate those households that have been, those victims whose households have been flooded to a different place. They also need sustenance in terms of food apart from shelter. So we are still waiting for DMMU to respond. Then from our
He called on to Disaster Management Mitigation Unit, DMMU, to help the 25 houses who have been affected by the floods in the area. Sampam Lenda reporting for Camnet TV in Lusaka.
Police have launched a manhunt for a Chinese national identified as Ruwan Chandan, suspected to have stolen about 1.1 million kwacha from his employer. Chandan is said to have stolen the money from his employer's residence in Lusaka's Chawama compound at about 14 hours yesterday. Confirming the development to Phoenix News, Zambia Police Deputy Spokesperson Danny Mwale says the suspect works as a supervisor at Max Beef Company, Chawama Compound branch, which belongs to his fellow Chinese national identified as Ye Jianbin. Mr. Mwale says the suspect, who resides together with his employer, knew where the money was kept in the house.
Police are looking for a Chinese national only identified as Ruan Chandan in connection with the alleged theft of money amounting to 1,100,000 kwacha, property of his employer. The suspect, who is currently on the run, is alleged to have stolen the money from his employer identified as Ye Jianbin, aged 47, also a Chinese national and owner of Max Beef Company located in Lusaka's Chawama compound. The money is said to have been stolen from their house in Chawama compound on February 3, 2023, around 14 hours. The suspect works as a supervisor at the same company and live together with the employer in Chawama compound. It was reported that he knew where the money was kept in the house.
Young people in Lusaka's Misisi compound in Chawama constituency have turned the Bombay drainage into a swimming pool, thus posing serious health risks in the wake of a cholera outbreak. The children tell Camnet News that they have no option but to resort to swimming in the drainage as the area lacks recreational facilities and there are no community swimming pools. Meanwhile, Media Network on Child Rights and Development Executive Director Henry Kabwe has urged government to utilize the Constituency Development Fund in the provision of recreational facilities. More in this report.
Recreational facilities provide a gathering space for social groups and individuals of all ages, effectively improving the quality of life in all communities as communities participate in all sorts of sports. However, most communities in Zambia lack recreational facilities as they have been replaced by shopping malls, thus making children shift to illicit activities such as gambling, substance abuse, and risky behavior, like is the case in Lusaka's Misisi compound, where children have resorted to bathing in the drainages. The water is not safe and poses risks to waterborne diseases such as cholera. When asked as to why they were swimming in such water, the children lamented that it is because they have no swimming pools, hence they are making use of the Bombay drainage. They have since appealed to the government to build recreational facilities in the area.
It's better to pangira go swimming pool. Pangira go swimming pool no kwa misisi. Tunonga kwa swimming pool. Because taznya go simawa. Nya ila omolo manzi nya doti neve danda ul. Size ya ba sona ba soba nya. Ola basmai babo bakuma no kuma. Wemanya ila mumuntu manzi. Atinda fya ba peko sambira so atofuna go swimming pool.
Meanwhile, the Media Network on Child Rights and Development MNCRD Executive Director Henry Kawe notes that it is not safe for children to be playing in the drainages. Mr. Kawe has called on to the local authorities to use part of the Constituency Development Fund CDF to create facilities that will help children build social bonds with society.
Well, the issue of children playing in drainages within our city and other places is becoming a big challenge to their health. We know that there is a drainage system in Kamwala called Bombay where children are playing. They're using it as a swimming pool, and that place is exposed to so many other things like people urinating there, so children can have euhasia and in the wake of the cholera outbreak, which is prevalent in some places. So we need to ensure that, first of all, we restore the recreational facilities that were taken by political party cadres. We need to ensure that these places are available for these children to be kept busy and away from various vices.
Beatrice Chabaya, Camnet News, Lusaka.
United Party for National Development, UPND Katombora constituency Member of Parliament Clement Andeleki has echoed the need for government to reform anti-corruption laws. In an interview, Mr. Andeleki observes that the Anti-Corruption Commission Act No. 2 of 2012 remains a weak piece of legislation that needs to be revisited because it does not deter would-be offenders. He charges that Zambia is bleeding into poverty because of selfish public officers who have been stealing public funds to enrich themselves. More in this report.
After coming into office, President Hakainde Hichilema vowed to strengthen anti-corruption efforts and show zero tolerance for graft. The United Party for National Development Administration had also disclosed that it would come up with mechanism to recover state assets allegedly stolen under the previous administration. Despite law enforcement making several arrests in relation to corruption charges, which are still underway before the courts of law, UPND Katombora area Member of Parliament emphasized the need for government to reform the law against corruption. Mr. Clement Andeleki notes that the Anti-Corruption Commission Act No. 2 of 2012 is a weak piece of legislation that needs to be revisited because it does not deter would-be offenders.
In order to deter would-be offenders, there is urgent need to reform the Anti-Corruption Commission Act. There is need also to realign the institutions fighting matters of economic crimes and graft. The duplicity of the law enforcement agencies in their work, the Anti-Corruption Commission, Anti-Money Laundering Investigations Unit, Drug Enforcement Commission, Zambia Police, Financial Intelligence Center, and other institutions, has caused a lot of problems. There is need to realign the manner in which the fight against economic crimes is looked at. Because there's too much duplicity. Drug enforcement is following on this case, anti-corruption is following this, Zambia Police is following this. This is not good. There's need just merely to create one big institution to fight economic crimes. And this will save the resources for the government. This will also be good for this country.
He says the UPND administration remains committed in fighting corruption, contrary to claims by various stakeholders that it is not doing anything and has failed.
Suffering because of selfish leaders who've ended up dipping their hands in the pockets of public funds. The looting that took place under the PF government is so unprecedented in the history of this country that is very hard to understand why leaders who are entrusted to handle public resources were allowed themselves to loot public resources. Yes, people may say that the New Dawn government's anti-corruption fight. It is not our fight against corruption. The UPND has no fight against corruption. The fight against corruption is the people's fight. The people of Zambia's fight against corruption. The UPND is just entrusted by the Zambian people to be in government. But the fight must be for every Zambian to condemn, to disgrace any public officer who steals public funds.
Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Advocates for People's Prosperity, President Mwenya Musenge, has wondered why Zambians have allowed President Hakainde Hichilema to continue using his residence for official duties. Mr. Musenge believes, being a church elder, President Hichilema must not be superstitious over suspected witchcraft tales at the State House, alleging that it may be a reason behind his refusal to go to State House. Mr. Musenge disagrees that the State House is in a bad condition such that President Hichilema would continue to use the community house, a move he says is tantamount to abusing taxpayers' money. He says the nation is wasting a lot of resources by providing security to both the State House and his personal residence. The opposition leader regrets that the head of state feels there is nothing wrong with inconveniencing other motorists with his convoy from the community house to State House.
No, it is so unfortunate that His Excellency the President, over 1 year, 6 months, is still coming from community house, and the Zambians, we've allowed it. No, that is not right. He was employed to stay at State House. Look at the cost, the inconvenience which is there to the citizenry when he's traveling from community house to State House, to and fro. Okay? He should realize that he was employed by the Zambian people. The Zambian people are his masters, and you cannot be treating them like that. So to have that laissez-faire approach of doing things should come to an end. Why is he afraid of shifting into that house? Surely are we saying kuchila inganda yakwe is the best kuchila inganda ya State House? Eh? Why is he superstitious? What is he afraid of? I mean, it is high time. He's an elder in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Eh? And he should be one of those people who should not be thinking about witchcraft, this and that. No, they will do this to me and that and that. No. When you decided to become president, you knew the risk that comes with that office if there is anything. So let him go to State House. We want him there.
The opposition leadership movement party has advised the UPND administration not to run the country with the mindset of an accountant, saying poverty levels will exacerbate. Addressing the media Saturday, party president Dr. Richard Silumbe says it is not too late for the country to strike an oil deal with Russia to enable it to benefit from lower fuel prices. Dr. Silumbe is disappointed that President Hakainde Hichilema has failed to control the price of fuel, which he said is a major catalyst to the high commodity prices. More in this report.
The opposition leadership movement party says the recent fuel price increment will intensify poverty in Zambia because ordinary citizens will be overwhelmed with higher costs. On the 31st of January 2023, the Energy Regulation Board adjusted upward the price of petrol by 2 kwacha 73 ngwe per litre, while diesel at 2 kwacha 81 ngwe per litre. On various occasions, several stakeholders have expressed concern on the monthly fuel pump price review, adding that this has a potential to create an unstable economic business environment due to unprecedented outcomes, which is not good for business operation. And the opposition leadership movement says the UPND administration should consider striking a deal with oil producing countries to enable Zambia benefit from lower fuel price. The party advises government not to run the country with an accountant mindset.
To make the Zambian people painfully pay economically to their misdeeds in the economic decision making. We have been clear as leadership movement that it's high time the president and the government itself went out there to look for good partnerships so that they can strike deals and get cheap fuel. We know that China is enjoying cheap fuel from Russia.
The opposition political party has also accused the UPND administration of feeding citizens with speeches instead of working on its promises.
Zambians voted for things to be at a point where they can manage mostly the staple food. But here we are today. The young people have been duped. They are told now just to put on a combat is 12 points. Kupyanga at no grade 12. So we are talking of local production, not the foreign production where foreigners are taking over our resources. So having said that, we are just trying to remind the new dawn that let them lower the appetite of them having the preference of the foreigners.
Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
United Party for National Development Deputy National Youth Chairman Mobilization Trevor Mwinde is confident that the government will handle the 2023-2024 farming season better. Mr. Mwinde says recommendations being made to stakeholders are being taken into consideration. Hence, he is optimistic that the management of the agricultural programs will be on point. He says the recruitment of extension officers will also help enhance productivity levels in the sector. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, 800 agricultural extension officers will be employed this year.
We will not also be reluctant to make favorable adjustments and based on the recommendations and feedbacks from the stakeholders, the farmers, to make sure that we have adequate food security in the country, going by what the budget pronouncements for last year, for this year, where there will be a storage facility, and there will also be a training of excess agriculture coordinators or extension officers to make sure that the mechanisms of how farmers manage their crop affairs up to the storage levels and logistics and all provided for by government, we will be in the position to assure the citizens that the FISIP program will be improved without much ado. We will not be stubborn or arrogant. We will be able to listen and get the feedback and do the needful in the best interest of the citizens of this country, Zambia.
Non-state actors have implored the government not to allow Konkola Copper Mines KCM to collapse, saying it will be catastrophic for the people on the copper belt. Advocates for National Development and Democracy, ANDD Executive Director Samuel Banda, has emphasized that there is a lack of employment and business opportunities on the copper belt due to ineffective operations at KCM and Mopani. He notes that KCM is in the intensive care unit, but he is confident that government will give the mine back to Vedanta to normalize economic activities on the copper belt. Zambians for Peace, Unity and Development ZUPED President Ronnie Jere insists that the issue of KCM has been long overdue, and he is confident that government will wind up the discussions.
Indeed, it is sad that the economy of copper belt is down because KCM and Mopani mines are not operating effectively and efficiently. It is a sad situation. It's a solid situation. It is a well-known fact that employment levels here, employment opportunities have gone down. The cost of living has gone up. There's too much poverty here because people don't have employment opportunities. People don't have business opportunities. Contractors, suppliers, and small businesses, they have closed down because the mines are not operating. Hence, it is our desire, and we feel that it is time for the government to act promptly on these two strategic mines.
Our coming to the copper belt is to appreciate the suffering of the people of the copper belt and just to have a look at the mines that have not been functioning for quite a long time. It is very saddening to see how people are struggling with mills. There is very high unemployment. There is high poverty levels have increased, and this is the source of concern. And we just hope that the Minister of Mines will be able to give us government position by March, month end of March, per se, and to find out how these mines, who takes over, especially KCM. We are happy with what government is doing in trying to unlock mining sectors, both Mopani and KCM.
You're watching Camnet Television Main News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
In our quest to serve nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
Good
Good news, good news. The rains have started. You need to plan your future. Generational wealth is the way to go. House-grafted avocado plants fruiting within 2 to 3 years for sale at only 90 kwacha each, and ordinary avocados at only 45 kwacha each. Contact us on 0979 753010 or 0962 965 883. We are open from 8 hours to 17 hours, Monday to Friday, at Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill, opposite Hilltop Hospital. On Monday, 16th February 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, Ambassador Anton Mukwita.
Country which is 750,000 square kilometers, about 2 million of that land in hectareage is arable. We also have one of the biggest resources needed for agriculture, that is 60% of the water in the southern African region is in Zambia.
As they discuss Zambia's 2023 governance issues.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp and text messages.
On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98 and Topstar channel 106.
Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. Apostle Council of Church ACOC Programs Director Reverend Mwaona Zulu says the church remains neutral and committed to working with the government of the day. In an interview with Camnet News, Reverend Zulu says the church will always endeavor to work with the government for the betterment of the people's well-being. He explains that individuals should not be misled if they see it working with the government of the day, adding that the church is not affiliated with any political party. He says its mandate is to ensure that the church and government remain strong partners in the provision of health, education, and other social services.
The church is the mother of all political parties. Therefore, we have seen that when the government comes in or the political party forms the government, people will say, no, this church now is supporting the government of the day, but that is not the issue. Because the role of the church is to offer checks and balances to the government of the day, to see to it that the government is working properly. Therefore, if the church now is working with the government, does not mean that it is supporting the political party or the ruling party. Actually, it is very far away from the ruling party. When it comes to the political parties, the church will support all the political parties, and the church will be against all the political parties. When the political party goes wrong, the church will come in. When the political party does something good, the church will come in to recommend. Therefore, the church does not mean that when it works with the government, it is supporting the government. But the role of the church is to see to it that it works with the government of the day.
President Hakainde Hichilema has emphasized the need for national unity based on love and trust in order for the country to reach greater heights in various spheres. Speaking in Lusaka on the 4th of February at Heroes Stadium during the SDA's Big Sabbath General Conference, President Hichilema observed that the unity is a cornerstone of economic, political and social development, hence its need in the country. President Hichilema also says that government is not in competition with the church in its pursuit of national affairs and has since called for collaboration between the government and the church in an effort to develop Zambia. He has further thanked the Seventh-day Adventist Church, SDA, and other church denominations that have added to the government's efforts in the provision of education and health services in the country. New Heritage Party leader Chishala Kateka says the appreciation of the kwacha needs to be anchored in solid economic fundamentals due to growth in production. Ms. Kateka notes that without economic growth through productivity, the kwacha remains vulnerable. She explains that the recent announcement by the Bank of Zambia for a 2.5 percentage point increase in reserve ratios from the current 9% to 11.5% on commercial banks, US dollars and kwacha deposit is not only ill-timed but is a knee-jerk reaction to the depreciation of the kwacha. She reiterates that the depreciation of the kwacha seen in the last few months has been very rapid. However, the response by the central bank will have very dire consequences on the economy. Meanwhile, Ms. Kateka has also observed that increasing the reserve ratio will have the effect of reducing liquidity in the economy, and in the absence of other interventions will certainly raise the cost of credit.
We are in deep trouble as a nation with regards to our economic management. Things are not working out as per the UPND script and as per pronouncements by the UPND government. The recent announcement by Bank of Zambia for a 2.5 percentage point increase in reserve ratios from the current 9% to 11.5% on commercial banks, US dollar and kwacha deposits is not only ill-timed but is a knee-jerk reaction to the depreciating kwacha. Admittedly, the depreciation of the kwacha seen in the last few months has been very rapid. However, the response by the central bank will have very dire consequences on the economy. Increasing the reserve ratio will have the effect of reducing liquidity in the economy, and in the absence of other interventions will certainly raise the cost of credit.
We'll take a second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
On Monday, 16th February 2023, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba with his guest, Ambassador Anton Mukwita.
Country which is 750,000 square kilometers, about 2 million of that land in hectareage is arable. We also have one of the biggest resources needed for agriculture. That is 60% of the water in the southern African region is in Zambia.
As they discuss Zambia's 2023 governance issues.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp and text messages.
On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98 and Topstar channel 106.
Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. Burkina Faso's military leader, Ibrahim Traoré, has said there has been no break in diplomatic relations with France. It comes after he asked the former colonizer to withdraw its forces. He also denied Russian Wagner mercenaries, a private army of Russian President Vladimir Putin, were active in the country. Former colonial power France had special forces based in Ouagadougou, but its presence had come under intense scrutiny as anti-French sentiment in the region grows, with Paris withdrawing its ambassador to Burkina Faso over the junta's demands. Meanwhile, top European officials have met in Kiev for a highly symbolic summit. President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged the bloc to speed up its membership, but the EU is calling for more reforms. For more in News Beyond Our Borders, here's a report.
Ukraine summit, a meeting as much about symbolism as talks. EU leaders side by side with Ukraine's president in Kyiv. A show of the bloc's support for Ukraine and a message to Moscow that despite its attempts, Kyiv's looking west. Ukraine wants to join the EU. Its candidacy was accepted last year and it wants accession negotiations to be fast-tracked. But EU leaders say that fulfilling the many conditions required may take years.
There are no rigid timelines, but there are goals that you have to reach. Reforms, for example, to improve a situation in the candidate country, to then reach the accession negotiations and the accession itself. Your determination to forge ahead is impressive.
Talks also focused on military support for Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky once again urging Western leaders to send Kyiv more weapons.
If weapons deliveries are accelerated, namely long-range weapons, we will not only not withdraw from Bakhmut, we will begin to deoccupy Donbass, which has been occupied since 2014.
The EU says it will continue sending military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine and will train 30,000 Ukrainian soldiers. It also pledged money for demining and reconstruction in the country, as well as a new round of sanctions against Russia.
The 10th package is on its way. We have the aim to have it in place by the 24th of February. It has a volume of round about 10 billion euros. It's a massive package again.
It was the first time that an EU summit had been held in a country in wartime. Although there were differences during this summit over the speed of Kyiv's EU membership process, EU leaders agreed that Ukraine is fighting this war against Russia not only for itself, but for the whole of Europe.
Burkina Faso's military leader Ibrahim Traoré has said there is no break in diplomatic relations with France. It comes after he asked the former colonizer to withdraw its forces. He also denied Russian Wagner mercenaries were in the country. We've heard everywhere in the press that Wagner is in Ouagadougou, he says. That's also how we heard about it. I've asked some people who say, oh really? Where are they? We've since heard that they're even in a hotel somewhere. We're surprised to hear about that. There's a general state of mind whereby if you deal with Wagner, everyone runs away from you. So it's something which has been created in order that everyone shuns us. Well, congratulations, good job. Anti-French sentiment has led to mass protests and violence in the country. Last month, Paris confirmed the Special Forces troops deployed to help a years-long jihadist insurgency would leave within a month. The French embassy is here. French nationals are here, he says, just as ours is there. So diplomatically nothing has changed. This is about an agreement over military presence, and as they have said, our sovereignty is up to us. So that's what we are expressing through our denunciation of this agreement. So there's no breaking off of diplomatic relations or hatred of any particular country. Protests demanding the departure of French troops have continued in the country, despite assurances they would leave anyway. Tunisia's powerful UGTT trade union has accused President Kais Saied of targeting it as a distraction from record-low election turnout and what's been called a total failure of his economic policies. On Friday, UGTT Chief Nuruddin Tabubi held a meeting in Gamath. He says the president is trying to divert attention from the record low election turnout in the first and second round of legislative elections and the utter failure of his economic and social decisions. Tunisia held elections last weekend for a parliament stripped of its powers by Said. It was boycotted by almost 90% of voters after critics accused him of trying to silence his political opponents. Why is the UGTT a target, he says? Because they want to pass the painful reforms they are always discussing. In order to pass these painful reforms, they need to distract the public with trivia by saying that the reason for this situation is the UGTT. Critics of the government saw the low turnout as a rejection of Said's post-revolution political system, which gave him new powers and made him virtually unimpeachable.
It's now time for sports news. In our sports news tonight, Arsenal were on the receiving end of Everton's new manager bounce as they slipped to a costly defeat 1-0 to Sean Dyche's men on Saturday. Arsenal slumped to only their second league defeat of the season as James Tarkowski's second-half header gave Everton a deserved 1-0 win at Goodison Park. The home side went into the game having lost 8 of their last 9 matches in all competitions, but inspired by new manager Sean Dyche, they outfought and outplayed the Premier League leaders on Merseyside. The defeat, Arsenal's third in a row at Goodison Park, could see their lead at the top of the table cut to just 2 points if Manchester City win at Tottenham on Sunday, although the Gunners would still have a game in hand. To end Camnet Television main news, the headlines once again. President Hakainde Hichilema accused of being superstitious for failing to occupy State House. A Chinese national is on the run after stealing over 1 million kwacha. Government's failure to reduce the fuel prices annoys the opposition leadership movement. In international news, EU leaders vow to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. And the sports news, Everton dents Arsenal's title charge. Our Camnet verse of the day is coming from Psalms 59 verse 17. You are my strength, I sing praise to you. You, God, are my fortress, my God on whom I can rely. Thank you so much for watching Camnet Television main news. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.